Welcome back to another episode of Culture Chat with Rachel and Andy. We are joined today by a very special guest, someone I have known for over 20 years now, which is like wild. We worked together in the Pro System days. Scott is a IT executive, has been CIO, COO, CEO, CTO, all the things, extremely bright, visionary, extremely innovative, wonderful people leader, really kind and compassionate, caring gentleman who I and my husband have had the pleasure of working alongside and for. So, welcome to our culture chat, Scott. So happy you're here with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, let's start off a little bit with some of the things you're observing in your new role. You're CIO of a startup. Is it still startup? Would we call it a startup?
It's kind of interesting. Our company's a 30-year-old company, so we've been around for a while, but we're small and we act as a startup from an entrepreneurial perspective. Especially with the new emergent technologies that are upon us. Just learning how to redesign and look at some of the modernization opportunities that are out there. I feel like the company's a startup more so than a 30-year veteran.
Which is pretty cool, right? The nimbleness that everybody needs, and maybe that's, like, part of the vibe too in IT. You're always kind of a startup because there's always new technology, so maybe that's what I was reading, picking up on. So what would you say some of your recent observations about corporate culture that are really sticking out with you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. When I think about corporate culture, I think about like a healthy corporate culture, and to me, I've been in some amazing companies, and they had amazingly healthy company cultures, and I see it being grounded in trust and respect for one another. You know, being able to be teammates, being able to have open conversations, to be honest. Um, but to me, it comes down to that core foundational alignment around trust and respect. That has to be there in a healthy corporation. From a culture perspective, and then I also look at people's personal values need to align with the company's core values because I think that's very important when you get that alignment of someone's personal values and where the company is taking their culture from a core value perspective and the behaviors that they really want to engage within their teammates. I think that sets for the foundation of a very healthy culture. To me, it's about, you can tell a good culture because the personal values and the core values align so well. It's in the DNA of the people. And I think that's just really a strong asset. I don't see it everywhere. But where I see a healthy corporate culture, it's just ingrained within the people.
Yeah. Yeah, because like, everybody's moving in the same direction, right? Like, we're all hanging our North Star on a pretty similar outcome, both for our lives personally and for where we want the company to go and how we treat each other, how we show up for each other, and how we move the
That's
work
right.
forward, which, I think is, like, why we and all of our consulting and coaching work, that's where we start, right? What are your personal core values? What makes you you and makes you wanna get up every day and do this hard work. And so that level of self-awareness, if you don't have that, that's going to be very difficult, both on an individual level and an identity for an organization. It's going to be very difficult for us to rally in a way that meaningful is the word that comes to mind, but I don't think that's it. Maybe it really just is effective, in a place
Yeah.
that people want to be, to feel good.
Intentional is the word that kinda came to mind,
Yes.
that we have to be really intentional about our culture. One of the things, Rachel and I usually will say is that your culture is happening no matter what. So, you just get to pick whether it's what you want it to be or you're just letting it happen. And, in my experience, just letting it happen never quite works out as well for a business as the one that kind of takes an intentional approach to it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Both larger companies, Pro Systems and Parsons, they really made a true effort to have core value moments. Before every meeting, you talked about the behaviors and the core values when you were looking to hire a person, when you did performance reviews, when you took disciplinary action, if you fired a person. I mean, everything was around those core values and the behaviors. And it was much more about that than it was your competency in business, finance, or technical competency. So that's a really good point, Andrea.
Yeah,
And I think that's a strong point too, right? You can build skill, right? We can train people, skills come and go. We're constantly learning, especially if you have those values and that mindset to be humble and able to be teachable and learn and be curious and all these other things that are part of people's values. Yeah, Andy, what were you gonna say?
yeah, I mean, I think it's along those lines, right? It is around and I like to think about this particularly at the leadership level because I think when you have when leaders are solid, that permeates down through the whole organization, maybe liking it to like a coach and then the performance of a team. Um, when I think we can always assume that at a certain level, people have a certain skill set, right? So if you're hiring a senior level leader, an executive level leader, there's a certain amount of skill you just know that they already have. What's more critical is, do they align with the company values? And not just in a book or a picture that's behind them on a wall, but how are they, to the things that you said, how are they communicating during performance review? How are we problem solving when things don't go right? How are we celebrating when things do go well? How do we make sure that the right credit is being distributed across the team? I mean, all of those things, we see contribute heavily to a positive culture, which I always like to bring this up. When we have great culture, especially intentional culture, great leaders, that shows up in our financials, right? That shows up in how productive the teams are. That shows up in how we value customer service and how we're performing for our customers or clients. So it's like all of these things tied together. We will sometimes hear culture, "Oh, we're gonna get to culture." But right now, the economy's so crazy that we can't focus on culture right now. And it's always like, "I'm sorry. You're gonna work this backwards." So my question to you is in terms of like being intentional with culture, what are some of the things that you all are doing within your organization to really make sure that it's the culture is what you want it to be versus just happening to you?
Yeah, so the company I'm with right now, we spend a lot of time having conversations about our core values and what those core values meant to us. And a lot of that conversation initially was like, well, we'll pick integrity, we'll pick accountability, we'll pick some of the common behavioral traits that you would expect out of most companies. But then we also thought about, but what makes us unique? What is it about a small business and, a 30-year-old small business that really exemplifies who we are as a company and the type of people that we want to attract to the company and what our clients see us as. And we had a lot of conversation about that, and we changed our core values multiple times until we got a really good set of core values. And it really came down to, people first, treating our people with respect and, continual learning. How do we help our people be continually learning new technologies, especially as the emergent technologies are upon us. We focused on customer satisfaction, so we have a client first type of a core value, and it was really our core values now really set us apart from the company that we see ourselves as, but also our clients see ourselves as. And that's helped us with attracting the right people, as we're looking to fill positions. We talk a lot about our core values and what's important to us and why clients work with our small business for the past 30 years. And these are our expectations when it comes to the type of behaviors that we have, treating our people fair and equitable, and a continuing learning mode, treating our clients, providing, above and beyond service, that goes beyond what their expectations would be, and we stress that as we go through interviews, and we also do that when it comes to performance reviews. And if someone's not cutting it, it's typically the conversation when they might not be making it in the company, and we have to separate. So I think for a small company like where we were, I think they were core values that were put on a piece of paper and no one really talked about. And now we're actually, leading with them, managing to them, and our people understand them and are living and breathing those core values. And to me, that's a big step forward, especially with the small business.
One of the sorry, Rachel, if you were gonna say something. Nope, me okay. One of the things that I love that you said, you're a 30-year-old business, you've had core values, and you've realized that you needed to continuously evolve them. I think one of the biggest mistakes that organizations can make is it's like, all right, we set our mission, vision, and values in, 1994, and well, that's them. It's like as environments change, as clients change, as these things we begin to evolve, we have to, I think, always be thinking that these are living, breathing, you know, um, systems that we've got to always sort of be thinking about, is this still right? And is this still right for us? Does this still represent who we are? Or do we need to think about how we do this differently? I think that that is really, really commendable, because most people it feels too much like an overhaul, especially if you don't have big leadership changes. So if you don't have big, sometimes CEOs come in and it's like blow up mission, vision, and values.
New
That's not what,
identity.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's not what we're talking about. But really looking at your landscape, looking at, what business are you, do you have the same objectives that you had maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago? What does your clients need? I think all of those things are really should be the contributing factor to making these things applicable, I guess. Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah. And the other thing too that you said, Scott, about are they just on a piece of paper or how do we really embody them and build them into our everyday in the way we interact with each other and the way we do processes throughout the year. I think so many companies do just like check the box. Like these are my values. Yep. Yeah, we did that. Mission, vision, values. Got it. And then
It's
you
on the
ask
wall.
people. Yeah, right. There they are. Or worse, you ask people and they really don't even know. I know we have them. I don't can you repeat them? N No, no, no. That's not important to my job. That's not, you know, so being able to integrate that and really have people embody that in the day-to-day work, again, the work, but also how they interact with each other, because at the end of the day, that is how the work gets done, right? How we show up for each other, how we communicate, how we problem solve, how we have differences of opinion, how we make decisions. These are interpersonal skills. And that's, one of my favorite quotes that I got from somebody who I learned a lot in EQ on was IQ gets you hired, but EQ gets you promoted, right? Like
Mhm.
EQ is the way that helps you advance, makes you likable, makes people want to work with you, helps you get the stuff done, and if you don't have that and all we're relying on is that skill, it's not going to serve very much. So at the top, you had mentioned trust and respect being two of the pillars, foundational bits of how you see corporate culture really excelling. How do you define each of those? And feel free to together, apart, whatever you think there. But when you think about trust or respect, what does that really look like? What is it? What are the actions? What do you observe?
I look at trust as, doing the right thing when no one's looking. Just your word is everything. We have so many conversations with employees, clients, partners, and if your word isn't equating to actions that lead to trust, well, then it's not going to be a good relationship. Respect, I think, just seeing how a person deals with situations, you know, some people understand the difference between right or wrong, but their actions during a specific incident might not show up the way they know what's right and wrong. So can you trust somebody? Yes. Could you respect somebody? Maybe not. And if you start to lose respect over time, you're going to lose that trust in the person as well. So I kind of differentiate the two. I think some of it is just um, when you boil it down, I think trust is everything in a relationship. If the trust is not there and people don't trust you, it's going to be hard to have difficult conversations. It's going to be hard to have conversations about, how do you come together as a team and bring that synergy, because you're just not going to you're not gonna have that person's buy-in all the time, or you might not trust that you have that person's
Right.
buy-in all
Yeah.
the time.
They say yes here, but then go and do something different over there, Yeah. Yeah,
I
it's huge. Yeah.
I love the piece that you brought up about, how do people act in certain situations, and I think that that's such the telltale sign, right? Is because we can all show up at our best when things are flowing and going wonderful and it's beautiful. It's like, let a bump hit the road, and that's where we really have to rely on, these are our values, this is how we respond, this is how we act, and that's where most people crash and burn, right? Is now the stress is on them, and all of a sudden, these things aren't as important because I'm stressed, or these things aren't as important because this other thing is going on. And so I think that's really where we get our biggest tests, is when it's not going well, and then that shows up the real true character.
Yes, so true,
And I think
So
we have to
true.
be able to call people out on that. I think we have to be able to. I I know this isn't always like a thing people love to do, but I think we really have to hold people accountable to when their behaviors aren't matching their words. When, and I think as individuals, we have to be prepared to accept that too, right? Because I think if our end game is to show up as X and we're not showing up as X, I need Scott. I need you to call me into the office and say, "Hey, like, that wasn't it, man. Like, we gotta
Mhm.
definitely gotta react in a different way. Let me help you, right? Let's get you coaching. Let's get you some training, like whatever the thing is." So I think we have to call out that behavior, obviously in a very kind, where we're thinking about the individual, we're trying to have empathy, we're doing all of those things. But be able to call someone out, and then what is the work to help them get better, right?
And I think too
Yeah,
when
it's
you
really
talk about
interesting. I learned that, early on in my career about, having trust and respect with individuals. I made it a point to really get to know all my team members. Um, some team members, might even become friends. I know them personally. I might know their family, and others I didn't get to have that type of a personal relationship. But the relationship was always built on trust and respect. And because of that, you then can have direct conversations, because if the trust is there and the respect's there, they know that person knows that, if I'm being direct with them, it's because I'm trying to provide clarity. I'm not sugarcoating something. I want them to be very clear about what's going on, and it's for their good. It's I want to see them be successful. It isn't that I want to come across as a bully or just be mean, but it's like I want to get your attention, and if I have your attention and you're accepting that as criticism, then you're probably gonna the good person, if we aligned with our core values, right, that person's gonna turn around and do something that's gonna take corrective action, and I think that's been very important as part of my career. I know that there's been times where I had to have conversations where I didn't have, a relationship with an individual. It's awkward. You don't know how they're going to react, and, then all of a sudden, that the conversation, might not be as direct as it needs to be. Um, but I would say that 99% of the people that I've worked with over my career, if I came in and started sugarcoating something and, they would see straight through it because they know that's not my personal
It
values,
it
right? It's
it ain't authentically you, and ambiguity doesn't get us anywhere. And I think because we, especially in the United States, I think that we have been evolving from a sort of, I want to use the right word here. We've been evolving from sort of a top-down management system, right? Where sort of leaders think just do it. I don't have to act and perform in this type of way, but you do, and just do as I say, right? And I think um my brain just went, "Hey, goodbye. Goodbye thought." It'll come back.
Well,
I'm sorry.
what was coming up for me when you were both talking too is like this difference that we talk about nice versus kind. That's
Mm,
definitely big, and everybody's talking about that now too. But that nice is beating around the bush, right? It's trying to make sure that we are uh, almost like placating somebody, to save their feelings or something. That's what we think we're doing to just be nice. And what we talk about with our kind model is knowing that person, just like you're saying, having that connection. It is the job of the leader, supervisor, manager, whatever, to know the people. Like this is it. You've got to know your people. Your kid plays soccer, you got an ailing mother, whatever. Like you got to know the people, and not in a disingenuous way, like whatever you can relate on and connect to at their comfort level too, right? Not everybody wants to share everything, and some do, and to be okay with that. And that's part of the job as the leader. But like you said, Scott, when you have that relationship, when you have a connection with somebody, they do trust that you have their best interest in mind to give them that feedback. You have built a foundation to say, hey, I gotta tell you, this didn't go the way we wanted it to, or this isn't working. And also to know their core values, to say, hey, I know this is not how you want to
mm,
show up. I know this is not what you mean to do, or mean to
Was not the
present, or whatever.
intention.
So let's help you get back aligned with that. But beating around the bush and not being able to be direct certainly serves no one. And being nice is it doesn't work. It
Well,
doesn't help.
I
So,
I think that's where I was about to go, was ambiguity gets us nowhere. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with being direct. I think direct and rude are not the same. They're not the same thing, right? So if I say to Rachel, "Hey Rachel, your background isn't working." That's not intended to hurt her feelings. It's direct, that it's not, I can't hear you. Your audio's not working, right? Or whatever it is. I am being direct to Rachel, because if I try to beat around the bush, like, I know you created this really great thing, and it was really, and I know what you're trying, and look at how much time we spend, and your message probably isn't getting through. The thing you think you're
mhm.
communicating isn't happening. So I think delineating between direct and rude is one thing. The other thing is, I remember there was an executive that used to work in my organization, and we put to her that she needed to hold her team accountable. And she's like, "I don't want to yell at my team. That's not going to help." And it's like, well, accountability and making sure that we're calling people, calling people on their their stuff, making sure that people are doing the things that they said that they were going to do. Why are you yelling?
Yeah, how
Those
how did
two
we make
things
that
are
meet?
not the same thing.
Yeah.
So I think, and Scott, we had kind of talked about this before, right? If you, should you be as direct or not as direct? And I think part of the communication was show up as yourself, because otherwise it's weird no matter what you do. And also, let's understand what is the best way to communicate to another individual. Because at the end of the day, our objective is to get the message out, right? And have the message land. And so I think those two things can be happening simultaneously. Um, but it does take conscious effort, I think, from the leader or from the communicator.
Yeah, it does, and to me, it just goes back to knowing that person, and how to deliver the message. Personalities come into play, with certain people. So, the trust and respect, yeah, that could be there, but, there might be a personality, that's happening at that point in time. And, people can change personalities, they might just be having a bad day and you could tell that they're angry or they're sad or something's not right with what's going on with them. And, just acknowledging that, reading their body language, understanding, the environment and the audience before you talk to them, you might soften how you deliver the message, but it's more acknowledging that something's not quite right with the person. It's not on their normal baseline, and you're trying to understand that to kind of meet them halfway, if you will, right? To understand what's going on, and then but you still got to hold them accountable. You still got to bring it back around to say, okay, now that we got that solved, or I could help you with something like that, what are you going to do to get this project done or this
That's it.
task complete? Because I always looked at it from this perspective. I typically ran larger teams, and if there was a person that wasn't performing, no matter if they were a star performer and were just having a bad week, or if they were just struggling, throughout, I look at it this way: if I'm going to accept it and sugarcoat it and not provide clarity to help that person be successful, meaning holding them accountable, the rest of the team sees it. And
That's
that's
right.
demoralizing.
And it affects the
Yeah.
rest of the team, because if someone is not doing
Demoralizing.
their thing, it's impacting the whole entire team. So, this is a great point, Scott, because so many times we will say something like, "Oh, like, we don't wanna hurt this person's feelings," or "We don't da, 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 da," or what, and it's like, "Okay, so you're not hurting that one person's feelings, but that person's actions are currently hurting everybody else." And so how why are we choosing this one over this group? I think that's an excellent, excellent point. Sorry, Rachel.
No, no, I was just gonna say, and sometimes too, if you can't be direct for yourself, like I work with a lot of women who do struggle with this, right? Finding your voice, being confident. And I just want to like make everybody feel okay. And yes, we have work to do and yada yada. But I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be, and it's like, okay, well, if you can't do it for yourself to make that confident position for yourself and feel that in there, do it for everybody around you.
Yep.
Start there. Work the muscle from there, knowing the impact it has on everybody else. And then as you get more comfortable and confident and realize, oh my gosh, the sky didn't fall when I just said what I needed to say to Sue or Bob, like then it's okay and you build up that confidence. But what is something, how can you look outside of yourself? And even maybe it's not the other people around, maybe it is back to the person you're delivering this to. It doesn't do them any favors either, you know? So
There
so
was a
Scott,
there was
yeah.
Oh, sorry, just really quick, there was a great little piece in, I don't know if you guys have read, if, Scott, you've read the book Radical Candor, but
Yes.
it sort of is there was a great thing where she was like, she didn't wanna be mean to her staff, she didn't wanna be mean to him, she don't, and then it was like, oh, she actually wasn't helping him. She wasn't helping him to get better, she wasn't helping him to progress, she wasn't helping him in any way, shape, or form by being what we'll say is nice. Really the straightforwardness, and if she could have been like, here are the things, that would also advance his career in the end. So I think the niceness doesn't really get us to where we want to be. Kindness does.
Yeah.
Kindness does. But niceness sometimes has a opposite effect.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. It was a very good book.
Yeah.
It's a good model, Oh,
Yes.
actually, Andy and I see ourselves a bunch in it too, just as we talk and do work through our problem, our work problems that we're solving together sometimes too,
Sure.
of like ruinous empathy, we can go to the other side of that and be a little too much and trying to help somebody else are feeling, understanding where they're coming from, and it's like, okay, this is my go-to. So being aware of that. So yeah, we like it. We use it both for ourselves, but also for clients. So the one thing that I did want to ask you, Scott, you're a big guy. I don't know if anybody knows that. As you sit down, you're a big guy. You command a room. We'll say that. Okay. Um, and because I now know you a little bit better, have gotten to know you, like, you're very approachable as well. There's nothing scary about you. But at the beginning, has anybody said to you, like, you're big and scary, like, I'm intimidated by you, and how do you respond to that? Or maybe there's nothing there. No, Rachel, that's just you.
Uh, yeah, I've gotten that a few times. I think it's like, I do go out and make a point to get to know people. So, maybe if I walk in a conference room the first time or a boardroom and, I kind of have a certain presence about how I run a meeting or run a, run the meeting, I'll just say, it may come across that way because I really want to have a professional meeting. I want people to come in. I want people to be prepared. I want people to speak up. I want to make decisions. I mean, I don't want to just have, talk in circles. So I really like to drive a meeting that's going to be produce good outcomes and not waste people's time. So, directness in that meeting happens a lot. And, I've had people come up later and it's like, well, I've had some points I wanted to bring up, but I didn't know if that now was the time. And I'm like, well, of course it was the time. Why didn't you bring them up? And I could tell that they might have just been a little bit bashful or, maybe didn't want to speak up at that time. But, then I'll go talk to the person and I'll go out and, get to know the person. And, I look at it that I learned this the same way that I'm hoping other people look at me and think, maybe I'm big and scary at times. We all put our pants on the same way. So there's no one should be intimidated by anyone.
Yeah.
And we all have thoughtful, intelligent opinions and thoughts that we need to add to a conversation. If you don't speak up, you won't be heard. But if you speak up, even if it's not aligned with the decision that eventually gets made, people will hear you. And I could tell you this, I've heard people during a meeting when I had my head strong on a particular decision and I heard it and we still made the decision that I wanted, only to come back the next day after I processed what I heard to say, we're going to go in a slightly different direction because the person that spoke up, even though I didn't agree with it during that meeting, I actually do believe that that's the best path forward. And I told the person that. And that helps bring confidence up that, if your voice is going to be heard, even if it's not acknowledged during the specific meeting, a lot of times it's still important that you speak up. And I just, I have that nature and way about me. So for any leaders out there, I think it's important that, encourage people to speak up, have diverse views. You have to make a decision. You're not going to please everybody. And when you make a decision, it's okay for another person to still appeal it. I still appeal this decision. Okay, appeal the decision and we'll go one more round. But once the decision's made, we're saluting the flag and we're all going to give 100% to achieve what the objectives are for the mission. We're not going to be holding back to sabotage anything. That doesn't go along. That's not alignment with the culture and the core values that we have. And I've been very, very blessed and fortunate to work with teams that do just that.
My gosh, there's so many brilliant nuggets in there. I don't even know where to start to underscore. Andy, you wanna start?
Um, yes, I do. I think it was something you just last said that now has just left my mind. Um, oh gosh.
Well, I
All right,
saw you
Rachel,
nodding I saw you nodding ve venomously? Whatever. I saw you nod a few times.
vigorously.
Thank you. With the if you don't speak up, you won't be heard. No one will hear you at all.
Yeah.
But if you
Thank
do, then
you.
you will be heard.
Thank
And
you, Rachel.
this is that piece. that piece, not exactly in those words, is what has helped me overcome my imposter or my fear in sitting with executives years past. That it was like, I don't want to say anything because I'm going to sound stupid. I don't want to say. And what I finally came to was, you have a job. Part of that job is to share what it is that you're thinking. You come with a different experience, whatever that is, whatever that background is, it's your role to share. And it doesn't have to be the end all brilliant idea. It doesn't have to change the decision or change the course or whatever. But you need to say what is on your mind because it will generate other thinking. It will generate others in thinking. So it keeps the conversation evolving. And having that permission, giving myself that permission is what's helped me be, just be able to show up, and not sit in my head and be afraid and let all the imposter take over. So
That's right.
so thank you for that.
I think in addition with that is when you give your ideas, they might not always get taken, and that doesn't mean they're a bad idea, and that doesn't mean you should stop giving ideas. Um, this is part of the process. I'm going to say what I believe is my perspective. Maybe I'm going to come with my data points on why it is the right way to go. And at the end of the day, a different decision will be made. I think we also can't take these things, internalize them too much and take it too personal. Understanding that you work amongst a team and there are varying perspectives and points of views, and so share your ideas, and also, it's okay if they don't take them. It's okay if they don't take them this time. It's alright.
Yeah. And I think what you bring up there too, Andy, is important about the ego, right? Like we own this stuff so much, so close to it. My idea, my thing, da 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 da. It's like, no, let's and so the more we can just put it out there, get comfortable, it doesn't feel as personal. It doesn't feel like mine. And I think also, Scott, what you said, once we collectively, and we see this, albeit a little too frequently with some leadership teams that we work with, we all do yeah, we're all aligned and we walk out the door and we are not saluting the flag. We are not moving forward with that objective. We are doing little things that, no, I don't think I'm sabotaging it, but you are. We're not, and I hate to use this term, toeing the company line, but like that is what it is. And when you're on the leadership team, we make a decision, we move forward. We gotta go. Yeah.
That's right.
I took my team at Parsons. I had 6 direct reports, and they were all 5-star, all-star players. Just amazing people. I was so blessed. But we had a challenge. The company, Parsons, was growing so fast through acquisition, organic growth. There was so much demanded from the team. And each one of my direct reports at the time had brilliant ideas. But when we got together as a team, it was like everything came to me for decisions. And so we went through an organizational health workshop, and it was run by a company, and it was focused on the advantage. If you ever read the book Lencioni, The Advantage, it was all about building trust. And so we went through a part of the workshop was just getting to know each other a little bit more, personalities, and what happened in your childhood, what makes you the type of person. Why do you respond the way you respond? Because some people, talking to them, they're sweet. When they're behind an email, they're mean. Just really getting things out in the open, right? And it was amazing how the team just started acknowledging, like, wow, this person reacts this way, that person reacts that way. So then when we cleared the air on that, it was more about how do we start building commitment and managing
Mhm.
conflict. So conflict's out there. It's not the person, it's the problem. Focus on solving the problem and having good debate. Don't personalize it. State your facts. It's okay if your decision or your opinion wasn't made in the ultimate decision. The key focus on driving that everybody on the same page was self-commitment. Everybody was policing each other because they all committed. And we would go around the table. We'd be like, "Okay, last chance. You can air out your last remarks, but after this, we're saluting the flag and we're moving forward, and we're all gonna hold each other accountable to make sure that we can get this job done." And it was just amazing. Then it became all about communication and clarity. Well, there's your directness. We had the directness in place then. a 1 week workshop. I don't know what it cost us, but it was so well worth it because out of that, our meetings became so much more meaningful. We got to decisions faster. All of a sudden, I thought I was out of a job, jokingly, but I thought I was out of a job because now all of a sudden people were working problems themselves instead of bringing it to me because they couldn't come to a decision. And it was like, it was just beautiful to watch. So I just had to put that story out there. I think it speaks to a lot of how organizations, if they really get it right, they really could ramp up their
Yeah,
productivity, their capability, and have fun doing it.
That's right. A great work environment where
Yeah.
people can solve problems and have a good time doing it. I mean, I think that's what we all want, right? Show up
aspiration,
to work.
right? Not dreading Monday morning, just like, "Oh, I like these books," and I think, that clearing of the air is really that connection, how we know each other and being able to say like this is what makes me tick and being able to be vulnerable, that is not
Thoughtful
easy and that
first.
is why these things need to be facilitated, like Andy and I are always like, would this conversation happen if we weren't in the room? No, no, it wouldn't, because there's something about allowing people to be vulnerable or having somebody else there that you feel like will help you if it feels like it's going sideways or what have you. So, and it takes a lot, and that's when you have five-star players, they recognize the importance of being vulnerable too. Um, the one other piece that you said that I want to touch on too is putting the problem in the center, right? Not making it personal. It's not a personal attack. It's not about the person. I think so much, like you jokingly said, face to face, fine, behind the email which is like what's happening with all of our social media, like it's so easy just to bite back at somebody that you don't actually know. And, so like we've become maybe more immune, accustomed. I don't know what the right word is there, but it's not pleasant. So if we put the problem in the center and make it about this objective that we're trying to go to and how do we solve that and take the personal bit out of it, I mean, that's really the only way, but how have you seen that work? What have you observed in people just really not being able to have civil discourse? Like we disagree, then
Yeah.
we can do that civilly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've sat in meetings where, things would get heated. Um, I refer to a heated conversation as someone has passion, they believe in something. Um,
Have a lot
I
of emotion around it. You care so much.
I think people we want people to bring passion to the argument because they truly believe in it and they're giving it their all. But when I hear things like, well, you start name dropping or you start pointing fingers or you can just see that there's anger that's taking place. It's not passion anymore. That's where you just got to call timeout and say, okay, we're going to take 2 minutes. We're going to cool off and we're going to come back. When we come back, we're going to focus on the problem. This is what I think the problem is. It's not the person. It's not this. It's not that. And I think sometimes just a simple timeout and then go talk to the people about, hey, you're going across the line here. You're not going to get anything accomplished other than the other person's going to dig in and we're going nowhere fast. Um, a lot of times that works, and cooler heads prevail and, they come together and we get to having a good conversation. Sometimes you just got to say, you know what, we'll pick this up tomorrow.
That's
Um,
right. Take a beat, man. It's okay.
yeah.
It's okay to take a breath. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what you call out are really two good things for people to keep an eye on behaviorally. All right. Name dropping, blaming. These are things that you can see that when that passion, because like you said, we want people to be passionate. We want them to come with emotion and energy and feel excited about something. But when we're starting to see that blame, names, that sort of stuff, that is the turn to anger, and you can even see some depending on who you are. I mean, that takes some self-awareness too, but being able to see that transition from passion to anger is when we got to call it. So just being able to call out that behavior, because I think sometimes it's really hard. We use a lot of these words, trust, respect, these are things, and everybody's got a different idea of what that looks like. So if we can really focus on what that behavior is, things for people to keep an eye on, to then go, okay, yeah, we got to call it. So yeah, good.
I have loved this conversation. My internet is like, I don't know. It's unhappy with me currently. So so if I drop out, I have enjoyed this conversation, Scott. It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, this is great. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Scott. What if you had to pick one moment, one part in your illustrious career that has shaped how you lead? What would you say? What do you think that is, or maybe some advice to leaders in your position?
It's a really good question. I thought about this question, and there was several stories I wanted to tell. But I'm going to tell this story. I was working for Pro Systems at the time, and I was assigned a new account. The account itself was a large piece of business, and it was a troubled account. Unbeknownst to me, when I took it over, it was a troubled account. The account manager was moving on. I was taking that person's position, and the delivery manager was moving on, um, which meant I had to go find and hire a delivery manager. Well, 1 week into that assignment, the client handed me a cure notice of multiple things that Pro Systems was not addressing per the contractual requirements. And there was 90 days to fix the issues, or Pro Systems may have been fired. Um, Immediately, you talk about putting a team together that were focused on their personal and core values, and we all aligned to the culture of Pro Systems. I brought in a delivery manager who was a perfect fit. There was a project manager that I had to replace because we had projects that were going wrong, and I brought a project manager in that was a perfect fit. And for 90 days, we sat there reading contracts, resolving issues, having frank, candid conversations. It was nose hold bar. And at the end of the day, we resolved the issues that were in the cure notice. We actually improved service to a point where we turned the relationship of that account around, and Pro Systems got a 2-year contract extension in the very
Wow,
end. So I say that as it was very chaotic and hectic. Um, but I had an outstanding account team that worked with the Pro Systems global teams in a magnificent way. Pro Systems stepped up and did an amazing job in support of what we needed to get done with the account to get things addressed correctly. But it was all about the 5 people that were on our account team just having each other's back. And in the end, it was just the way I led, because I was like, it's I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. I don't need each person to be the smartest person in the room. I need to build a team with smart people, but people of character.
beautiful,
And that's what this team had. We were not going to quit. We were not going to fail. And through all that hard work and stress and pressure, we'd go out, we'd go bowling together as a team, and we'd have fun. And it was just an amazing experience. And now that's what I like to do. I like to look to build teams where um, I'm bringing smart people around the table, but as people of character.
beautiful, beautiful. And that's where we started, right? It's bringing the right people together and knowing that you can train for skills and all that other stuff, but people who are going to be true to their values, show up for each other. That's what it's all about. So
Yes.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Any final words of wisdom you want to impart on our audience?
No, I was very fortunate to have stern mentorship through my career. And I say stern because a lot of times it was lessons learned on my side that I had to work through. Um, but there was no yelling, but there was a lot of stern advice. And with that, it was always a learning experience. And I had trust in the people that were my mentors. Some were indirect mentors, but they just gave me really good advice. And I at times I had to listen through the noise because there were a little bit of shouting going on, but the nuggets were just tremendous of really what they were telling me. And I would just suggest to people, don't get turned off if someone, elevates their voice a little bit. Just listen to the nuggets that are out there. If the person really cares about you, they want you to be successful. And that was my big takeaway from all the mentors that I've had in my career. I trusted them, and in the end, I've learned a lot because of their advice. And again, I'm blessed and very fortunate.
Beautiful. Their advice, and also I'll say your humility, your ability to hear it, because that is not something that everyone can do. So, you know, kudos to you. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to see you and talk to you. Keep promoting all of this out there. I know you're doing great stuff on LinkedIn, and we thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us and our audience. And we will speak again soon.
Yes, thanks for having me on.